Mic check, mic check, mic check. 1 2 1 2 1 2. You know what I mean? Welcome to another edition of the Mic Check AV. I am your wonderful host, the Mo with the Mouth, no doubt. It's Project MC, and listen, okay, we got a special one today. That's always, because it's always a special one here on the Mic Check. We have the one, the only, New York's finest. We got Lyrical Faith in the building, y'all. Lyrical Faith. Okay, poet, spoken word artist, writer, and social activist herself. Lyrical Faith is in the building. And we're gonna go ahead and bring her in and get her popping, because it's lit on this side, y'all mean? Let's go! Where she at though? Where she at though? Where she at though? Yeah! Here she go, here she go, here she go. Listen, let me stop being ignorant. Let me stop. Lyrical!
Yo, it's good.
What do you do, Lyrical? How
did I call you Mijan or Project MC?
MC, just call me MC. I know, but I'll be switching the name. Listen, I put it one name, it changes it back, so I just leave it because I don't be feeling like it no more. But just MC, just record, just MC.
Hey, okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lyrical Faith, a new friend of mine. She's really, really dope, and she cites me all the time. So I'm trying to find a way to like top her citing when it comes to the intro. I met Lyrical Faith through Brave New Voices when I competed virtual this year, and she was hosting one of the workshops on social activism and combining, spoken word with it. And it was a really, really dope workshop. And from that moment, I was like, yo, Lyrical Faith is really dope. And then from there, she then invites me to something called the Harlem Bomb Shelter, an open mic of hers that she hosts every Thursday. And it's really cool. It's many great people that always come through, dope features, dope open mic list. And every Thursday, she says, yo, MC, bring your behind to the open mic. And I'm like, my bad. I'm going to come through because I don't want no New York beef. You know what I mean? Lyrical, it is great to have you. It is so, so great to have you.
Oh my gosh, thank you for that lovely intro. It's great to have you as well. I mean, great to have you. Wow, it's great to be here. So used to having you on my show. Now it's
exactly. See how I flipped the table? See how I flipped it? Exactly. So again, yeah, like I said, y'all, she's an amazing poet, amazing writer, amazing spoken word artist. Just really cream of the crop, right? Just really, really up there. One of my favorites. I want to ask you to go ahead and jump into it, Lyrical. Where does your journey into the world of poetry even begin for you?
My journey in the world of poetry began. Okay. Let me think. That is a good question. So I'd like to stem it back to my 6th grade English class, where my teacher, Miss Brown at the time, she wanted us to have a poetry unit, but because she herself is like this really awesome, dope, like dancer and artist and creative and everything like that, she kind of was just like, well, instead of just like, studying like old dead white man poetry, like I'm gonna do a spoken word poetry unit. And so like she taught us, she showed us like spoken word videos. She taught us like how like spoken word is interactive and things like that. And we kind of, at the end of the unit, we had to like, write a spoken word piece. And so like, that was when I first kind of got introduced to like the art. And my piece at the end of the unit was something that like the class and like everybody really like, remembered and really vibe with. And I was like, I was like 12. So it was the first time I was like, oh, I like this, like I'm kind of good at something. So I just kept writing. And kind of like immersing myself into different poetry communities. That was in 6th grade. And then like by the time I was in high school, which was 12th grade, that's when I co-founded the Harlem Bomb Shelter with like Anubis and like others, and got involved with like Urban Word NYC and bringing them through to the bomb shelter and stuff like that. Went off to college, joined the poetry program on my campus. And then that's I slammed when I was in school, in college for the first time. And then ever since then, kind of just been writing and performing and like doing my thing with different communities and spaces that I've been a part of. So yeah.
Along your journey of, you know, growing up and then growing up with your poetry as well, what are some of the ways you say you have evolved as a writer?
Oof. Oh my gosh. I feel like I am constantly evolving, and constantly just wanting to be in a different place, a different space, a better space. I think like, so definitely I definitely evolved when I was in school, like in college and everything, in the program that I was a part of and stuff like that, when we had to, you know, have like a poetry slam, and it was like my first time competing, and I was like really scared. One of my like friends who was like in the program, who was like upperclassman at the time, he was really like you know, on some like helping me like edit my pieces, because they were like really long. Like I had like pieces that were like 7 minutes. I know.
You was rapping.
Like it wasn't pretty. And so definitely had to like chop all that stuff down. And so like that was like a huge hump of evolving. And then after kind of like that and whatnot, I started to, this was like around the time where like you know, like spoken word videos online was like, you know, like when I was in college, like Strivers Bro was huge. And so like, I really like admire, look up to all of them. And somebody who, you know, I really admire and like who really kind of like helps with me with my my poems and stuff today. You know, she was a part of that group. And so like she or they all, you know, like the whole culture of like kind of like watching poems on YouTube like started to kind of emerge around that time. And so like I got to really engage with like topics of spoken word in a different way. I got to engage with like the ideas of like how like, you know, slam is approached in a different way, and kind of just like and then we were able to like bring some of them to like my school to for them to like perform and do like poetry workshops and stuff like that. So a lot of like kind of learning and stuff like that took place during that time period. Unfortunately, I kind of missed out on the whole like cup seat experience, because like my school, Syracuse, like we didn't have a cup seat team, and our poetry program like director wasn't really like, you know, really like involved in like trying to like actively make one for us, more than he was trying to just make a community or a space for us like there. And so that wasn't a thing for me, but I do have like a lot of friends who went to Cup C and kind of learned a lot about it like a little bit later on. And then like once I got out of school and everything like that, and still continued to like, I was in grad school and still continued to like do poetry and work and things like that. I was back in the New York City scene, and that scene specifically being in the New York City slam scene was like a huge kind of like bump of like a lot of growth took place then, because of like how you know, cutthroat it is, and how like just how rough it is, just it is like you gotta keep your head above water. So so that a lot of growth took place over the past few years, since I've been slamming in New York. So, yeah,
I can only imagine, because you know New York is the birthplace of hip hop. So I can only imagine like you can't just be.
I'm from the Bronx, period.
Okay. Shout out BX. Shout out BX. I can only imagine that like, because it's the birthplace of hip hop, you like as a poet, you already shouldn't come with like lame stuff to a slam. But you going to a New York slam? Nah, you can't bring nothing short of like a 9, if that. What would you say were some of the surprising discoveries you saw about yourself as a writer?
Oh God. Business today.
I came to talk. Dang.
Okay. All right. So, and this is something that I still battle with, but something that I'm getting better with, but just like how hard it is to be like extremely vulnerable in my writing. I've been able to like kind of push myself in ways that I didn't really see imaginable like a couple years ago, but like have been in my, you know, more recent works. And so I will say that like I love, you know, so you mentioned earlier that at BABYY I hosted the social justice and spoken word workshop and everything like that. And that's my heart. I really love that stuff. Like, I'm an educator. I advise college students. I study social justice in grad school, and I want to like study it like, you know, when I go back to school again. And so like I really enjoy writing about issues that affect like society, like things that affect like me as a Black woman, like be like, you know, like super like hardcore like things that are like community oriented and things like that. But I also find within that that like sometimes that takes a lot of focus off of myself and a lot of the internal work that I need to do as a poet as well, and a lot of the personal stories that I need to share as well. And so I will say that in more of my recent writing, I've been exploring out into those waters and doing more of that work because of how transformational it is and can be, not only for myself, but for others. And then how I'm pushing myself as a writer to just be extremely just as honest as I can possibly be, so that that is the work that I'm doing for poetry, but also for like somebody out there who might have the same story and the same feelings as me, but not necessarily the platform to articulate it. And just like, also like, if I'm not honest and if I'm not vulnerable, then it's not myself, it's not my work. And so like, I just need to be more of myself, share more of myself. And those are some of the discoveries that I've been making in my recent writing. So yeah.
Two things you said were just stuck out to me. One, the last part about how what you were writing is not necessarily always just for you, but it could be for somebody else who's listening and they couldn't properly articulate it. But it's like once they hear the words that come out of another person's mouth and they realize it's their same situation, it's like, that's how I feel. That's what I've been wanting to say, but just couldn't formulate it. I think that's the beauty of poetry. It's like we will all, without poetry, many of us will feel like we all are by ourselves when it comes to certain things, certain issues. But hearing poetry allows you to connect with others around and realize that though your story is an individual story, many share that same story, and it helps us relate. And then the other thing that I now want to direct this question to, writing towards the many social injustices that happen, because sometimes artists and poets, artists, whoever is doing so, I'd say have a responsibility to report on what's happening. And granted, while that may be that, it's also important to sometimes find the balance to talk about things more personal to exactly you, especially things that may be more of a happier tone, right? So that your body of work is not just so monotone and depressing all the time. You ever go to a slam, it's like, whoever got the most depressing piece, that's the winner. That'd be the winner. So how do you know it's true. You saw BABYY.
Listen, I said it myself in the workshop.
Exactly. So how do you as an artist find that right balance between the things that are personal and might be vulnerable, the things that are talking about the injustices, but also talking about the things that bring happiness and joy to you?
Yeah, I think that that's an important balance to have, right? I think that oh gosh, I think that sometimes it's like folks want us to like be this person, this poet that is like, you know, constantly tapping into like this Black pain, and like constantly tapping into like this, you know, this like, you know, be like this social justice poet and stuff like that. And that's fine and well, and that's great. But like sometimes if I want to write this piece for me, if I want to write this piece because there is so much there's so much pain that I have to deal with on a daily basis. There's so much, you know, distraught, like, you know, feelings and whatnot, like navigating, like as like a Black person, as a Black woman, as you know, whatever it is that I am carrying, you know, on my back throughout society, that I am you know, engaging with writing about. Like folks it's like sometimes folks want to hear about that, but it's like, if I want to write this piece for me, if I want to write this piece because I want to like feel or tap into my joy, if I want to feel or tap into my just like my happiness, the things that are, you know, serving me well in life, right? I think that like that is also really important work. And sometimes it's like super necessary, because I think throughout all the things that we are experiencing at this time, and all the feelings that we are going through at this time, sometimes we need to have breaks. We need to take a break as a writer and show like, okay, there is a glimmer of like, also like Black joy is Black resistance, right? Because like society is not necessarily designed for us to be joyful. It's definitely designed for us to kind of like operate in this space of like having things constantly taken from us, having things constant, and then just like dealing with it, right? But then like in dealing with that is like the trauma, and in dealing with that is like, you know, all the pain and the issues and the suffering and things like that we experience, right? So it's like finding joy amidst all of that, and then being able to kind of like, you know, write about that and engage with that as an artist is also something that like, you know, we have to challenge ourselves to do. And so I think that that's really important. I've tried to do it in like more recent pieces, and I think that like a lot of us as artists, like it's kind of just a constant tug of war between like, I want to write about what's angering me right now, but I also want to write about like, you know, how I'm showing resistance and what's angering me right now, because I want to like, you know, not be angered. I want to find like something that is keeping me going, keeping me alive, keeping me awake every morning, so that I can continue to live this life that we are in. So definitely a tug of war, I would say.
Yeah. It's definitely a tug of war, but it disproves the narrative that Black people are always angry with the Black joy pieces. Though we have every right to be with everything that happens, it's like you gotta still find that safe haven, that solace of like, yo, through everything, I still have joy. And that is the one thing that, though it's tugged at many, many times, it's not leaving, it's not breaking, because at the end of the day, this is, if I have nothing else, I have this. If I have nothing else, this is what I have. I want to ask you, what would you say has been the most meaningful, most impactful piece that you've ever written?
Ooh.
I told you, I'm digging today. I should have warned you. I dig.
You are, oh my gosh, this on your interviewing. This is lovely. Definitely gives me a moment to think. So yeah, I love that. The most meaningful piece?
Yeah, like the one that hits closest to home to you. When you wrote it, it's just like, it makes you remember why you love poetry. It makes you remember that exact moment when you wrote it, that time, whatever space you're in, the one that hits closest to home for you, that you've ever.
You're even gonna cry.
No, don't say that, because now I'm gonna look bad when I post it. Don't do that.
Okay. All right. So,
or if not the one, just one of them, because it might be hard to decipher. One of them.
Okay.
I'll do that.
All right. So for that piece, I want to say that okay. So one of those pieces, I want to say it's a poem that that I can tell you that almost nobody has heard. Like a couple people. I did it on like somebody's live like not too long ago when I featured. But it's a poem about my father, and it's definitely one of the most personal things I've ever written. And it's something that I've been trying to get off my chest for a while. And I also want to say like this piece is still something that, you know, I want to say it's still under construction. Like I'm still kind of like working on, I'm still editing it because I don't feel like it's just right just yet. But it will be because in like a near future of mine, I want to publish my first book. And so like I'm gonna have this entire section or this entire chapter of my book that's specifically poems about my family, and how I want to say that my family in my upbringing is pretty much one of the reasons why I feel like I write poetry, because a lot of things that happened throughout like my upbringing and my childhood and things like that were things that I felt like silenced me. And so like as like adults and whatnot, like, and as like young adults and everything like that, you kind of like walk around with like, you know, unbuttoned traumas from your childhood that that like, you know, that young adults and everything like that are kind of like still working through,
especially in a black household, especially in a black household.
And so it's kind of like, unless you have like, you know, like just some folks are like in therapy for these things, like I myself. So some folks are like, you know, finding other outlets of expression, talking to their friends, talking to their like whomever about these things. And like, you know, some folks like use those things to motivate their artwork as well. And so like so I'm still crafting a chapter of poems about my family, and so like that is definitely one of them. And I want to say that like it definitely kind of just stems back to a lot of like how it's growing up in a black household. I kind of feel like you know, relationships with, you know, family members, with parents, black parents don't have like an issue apologizing. It's always like, you know, come eat. And so like and so like that's like mainly like one of the issues that I tackled in that piece, with the piece about my dad. And so like I kind of wanted to bring that to light, and that poem was like the first time I really unpacked and explored that. So yeah, I would say it's that piece. It's called Nothing Left.
That's real. Nah, yeah, I know plenty of people who, when growing up in a black household and issues arise, and it's like, it's for a lot of them, it'd be like a two-way street, because yeah, you love your parents, but it's like some things you really wish they would have did differently. And it's it'd be like that. It really do be like that. But it's great to know that you're working towards unpacking it, to addressing it, and to finally coming to peace with it. That's happening. So kudos to you, Lyrical. Kudos to you.
And it's also good to know that like you're not alone, because like other folks are like, oh yeah, like I feel this way too. And so
exactly.
So that's always extremely comforting, especially as an artist, because we get up there and we unpack so much of our lives, and sometimes you wonder like, okay, like, you know, is this therapeutic, or is this like me reliving my trauma? And like, how do I know, like, you know, how do I know the difference, and how do I know that this has been helpful to both me and myself and someone else? And I think it's kind of like when you get affirmation from others, like, hey, like I went through this too, and like, you know, this and your words have helped me, and I think that is a bit of therapy in and of itself. So
what you just said is really, really stuck out to me. I would try to keep you under like 45, but you're giving me really great conversation right now. So what you just said, right? Because it was something that when I was talking with the rest of my BNB team, Pages and Patrick, earlier this year, the part about when unpacking certain things. Of course, shout out the team. Love it. When unpacking certain things, is it therapy, or is it therapeutic for you, or is it you unpacking things that you're not ready to unpack and now you're reliving your trauma? And one of the pieces that was in the makes when we were thinking of pieces for the team was the trauma piece. How a lot of poets, young poets, when they're entering in slams and they have coaches are pimping them out to do pieces that are about their trauma. As again, BNV is a very, very big home to a lot of traumas being spoken, which is fine if they're ready to speak on it. But a lot of these poets don't be ready, and they're coerced and persuaded to do pieces that they're not ready for. And by the time they finish that piece, it's like they just ripped off a Band-Aid of an
bandage
right on the stage, and the entire thing slams now become, who can bleed out on stage the slowest to earn this trophy.
Yeah, and who's gonna be here to close my wounds when
and it's like, great thing that we do have medical professionals that mental health professionals that are available, because I know for BNV it wasn't always like that. They didn't always have those professionals there, so it's like it's a wonder to what has happened in the past, or things that do happen when those professionals aren't there and you're ripping your trauma off. And it's like, are you even okay at this point? Did this even help you, or did this more so just hurt you? Oof, you just hit a nail. You hit a trigger. You hit a trigger right there.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And you'll find that does not change in adult slam either.
Oh, wow, that's great to know. That's great to know.
Yeah, so just get ready. And I want to say, without the mental health professionals, like I was like, oh, there's a decompression room here. Wow, where was this at? But yeah, definitely just continuing to like navigate in that space. But yeah, there is something interesting. There's something interesting both writing the trauma poem and performing the trauma poem and slamming with the trauma poem, and kind of like seeing how that is and how that feels in that space of slam. And it definitely is kind of like this back and forth. It's like, the crowd loves this, so should I do it to outdo this person's poem, or like should I do what's like actually really, really good for me, and just have confidence in that, and confidence in my work, and confidence in knowing that like, this is the piece that I wrote with me and all of my truth, and I'm gonna bring me and all of my truth and all of myself to this stage, and I'm gonna give this audience my all, and no matter what it's about, because the poem is me, and because the poem is my truth, and because it's good, that is what I'm bringing to the table, and hope that resonates with others. So
right.
But slam is a tricky game. It's like you only have control over yourself. You're writing your poem, and then everything else is a wild card. So
yeah. And then, like it's been said many times, that slam itself is weird, because it's like, who has the best piece when every piece is unique to the individual, and then just people, especially when they choose random judges to judge on poetry. It'd be nasty. It'd be nasty sometimes. I want to ask you, when it comes to creating art, right? And you know how artists, whether musician, poet, painter, we're sensitive about our art, whatever that may be. How often do you let people in your world to have a look at and critique your art?
Ooh, so right now, like I mentioned, like I'm working with like my coach, who is really phenomenal person, and she pretty much like kind of helped me prepare for WOWS. When I went earlier this year, another World Poetry Slam when I went earlier this year, and and then also has been like critiquing my writing, and and everything like that since then. And so I want to say that like that has been this and that has been the roughest transformational experience in my work, because literally, like, you know, she would give me the assignment, I would go write and come back, and I literally would like hand it to her like, yo, this is it, like, here it is, like, I am sure about this one, like, I took my time, and entire pieces are in the trash, like, no one has
yes.
they are ripped up. Like, we'll never see the light of day, because she is like, absolutely not, this ending was trash, and you know it. Like, sometimes you need people to like kind of like break you down so you can be back. And I'm not even gonna lie, I'm not gonna hold you, this might sound harsh, but like it will like be necessary, because if you don't have somebody who is like supporting, even if it's not like a coach, even if it's like your friends, because I have like also like a group of like, you know, friends who like I call my team, that we you know, we write and we kind of like throw stuff, we soundboard things off of each other, we look at each other's pieces, we give feedback and all that, whatever. And like, even if you don't have that, if you have folks that are just like, oh yeah, like this, oh yeah, this is fire, like this is good, like this fire, like every single time, it's like you're not growing as an artist. You're gonna be exactly where you was, you know, 5 years ago when that same person was telling you this is fire. Everything that you write is not fire. Like it just is what it is. Everything that we write is not fire. And you need somebody.
I never know that, but people listen up. Everything a poet creates, even the best poets, everything is not great. You just only hearing the greatness.
Right, exactly. Like by the time y'all hear it, by the time like other folks hear it like publicly, just probably done gone through so many edits, drafts, revisions. You know, there's a version of this that exists somewhere that is like in the trash can that sounds nothing like the one that you're hearing right now. Right. There's this piece that I have about like plantation weddings, and it's like on my social media and stuff. I think I did it at WALPS. But anyway, like the first version of that poem I wrote in like maybe December, the first version of that poem sounds absolutely nothing like the version I performed. Like literally nothing like it. Like I talked about like, you know, my family is mentioned or whatever, because like my family is like, like some of my family is from the South. And so like I talk about that, but like the concept is similar, but it's very different. Like the concept is different. I talked about my family like a lot more in the earlier version. I talked about like trees and the analogy of like trees and black bodies and like all this like way more than I needed to, because it's like it's just wild. So it's kind of like you need somebody to. So yes, I am an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit, but like you still you need somebody to also like kind of like, you know, at least one person that you trust enough, whose opinion you trust enough, who can kind of like break through that sensitivity a little bit and kind of toughen you up, because just everything that you write is not in its final form when you in the first time you write it, in the first few times that you write it and edit it and look over it. Sometimes it needs a lot more love and care and tenderness, and that's what creates a good poem. When you put time into it, when you grow it, when you foster it, when you treat it like it's your baby, you gotta like nurture it and all that stuff. So yeah.
I like that. I like that last part where, because that was another question here. You just answered it. What goes into a good poem? Like what makes a good poem? That's that love, that care, that treating it like it's something extremely precious to you, like a baby. But yeah, facts, big facts for everything we just said. I want to talk to you about something that I found out about through you, the Black Greek poets. When I heard that, I was like, yo, that sounds amazing. It's Black, it's Greek, and it's poetry all in one. So I wanted to ask you, one, how did you become a part of that initiative? And two, how did becoming Greek affect your poetry once that happened?
Oh God. Okay. So yeah, y'all. So I'm the founder of a group called Black Greek Poets. Essentially, it is a poetry network, poetry organization of folks who are poets, writers, artists, creatives, etc., also members of historically Black Greek organizations, otherwise known as the Divine Nine. I myself am a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and I have a really dope leadership team, e-board, of like other Black Greek poets who have been like, you know, really working with me over the course of the past several months to like, you know, create and foster a space of, we have like a group chat of like over like 150, 160 like other members of like of the group, and so like we've been like creating this community where we've been like fostering like important dialogue amongst us as both Greeks and poets, you know, doing like different development workshops, having like open mics, having slams, having things like that, like and then also kind of just like bringing awareness to like what we do, and kind of how we're using our words and our platforms to sow back into our communities, and to like acknowledge that there is power in the platforms and in the positions that we hold and the platforms that we have, and that we have a responsibility as artists to use our platforms responsibly in the things that we write and care about, and so like and advocate for. And so so as a member of a Greek organization, somebody who holds like the roots and the values and the history of my organization near and dear to my heart, who cares about scholarship, sisterhood, service, and just in public service and like giving back to my community and things like that, being a leader in that aspect and being somebody who does care about the community, cares about like issues within the Black community, being a writer, has allowed for me to kind of like think about the ways in which I use my words as a responsibility and use my platform as a way to kind of like bring awareness to, like you said earlier, like reports on things happening and issues happening in our communities. And so like I will say that Black Greek Poets has a lot to do with like, you know, advocacy, leadership, but also like how are we holding ourselves accountable as members of these brand organizations, of these like really historic organizations that are very integral in the Black community. Like how are we holding ourselves accountable by like having the tough and important conversations about social issues and societal issues and things that are going on. How are we talking about these things? How are we, you know, leading by example? How are we, you know, using our platform as artists to kind of like bring awareness or help people think about these things differently. And so like we've been doing a lot of that work within the group over the past few months. So yeah, that's kind of Black Greek Poets, and some of the things that we've been doing. For example, like, you know, I didn't say this before, but you have this poem that you wrote about like your HBCU, right? And so like and so one of your lines is like, you know, it's a Greek culture and rape culture holding hands at the party. And so like I myself, like on my campus and whatnot, we, you know, we're just dealing with this, and a lot like throughout quarantine, a lot of anonymous pages from campuses like all over came about, kind of expressing like different like survivors like coming forward, expressing like you know, like their experiences with sexual assault on campus and things like that. And so like that was something that, you know, really struck a chord for me, a lot of folks, and a lot of conversations and groups and stuff like that I've been a part of. It definitely like impacted the Black Greek Poets community because there was somebody in the group chat who was, an anonymous page was created about them. And so like, and all this is public, I'm not spreading any information, unless we say whatever, but like, yeah, all this is public. And so like, I had to, you know, we had to like, as a leadership team, like we had to like remove that person, put out a statement, you know, and then have a follow-up event and an entire conversation around like healing and sexual assault. And like, what does that mean as like members of Greek organizations, and understanding and knowing that like Greek life, and particularly like fraternity life, does perpetuate and like enable these systems of sexual assault and misogyny and things of that nature. And so like how are we like conversing about these things, and how are we like advocating about these issues and addressing these issues so that they're not kind of just like this unseen, unnamed elephant in the room that we are all like systematically a part of. So, so yeah.
I definitely think that's dope where you have, Greeks and Greek organizations addressing the negative things that come about, because it don't be all Greek organizations, but it's just that certain events are now giving a bad name, and it's like, as you all are service is high on one of your values, and that to now you have to service the community, which is by addressing these things and realize, hey, we don't condone these things. So we have to talk about things. We have to talk about the elephant in the room in order to remove the stereotype, remove the stigma, remove the constant upbringing of this in relations to us, and just deal with it and head on. I love that. I also want to ask you, what motivated you to be a part of Delta Sigma Theta? What motivated you to become Greek in the first place?
Okay. What motivated me to be a member of my organization? So that is definitely a loaded question. I have always wanted to be a Delta. My earliest, and I guess like my first sort of engagement with my organization, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, was through my mother, who is a member of my chapter. And so that is my earliest introduction, right, to the organization, right? But as I got older, and continued to come into contact with different other amazing women who became my mentors, who became like big sisters to me throughout like other community things that I was a part of. This is even like before college, also Women of Delta. And so it kind of always just like showed me an example of the type of woman that I, wanted to grow into, somebody who was interested and invested in giving back to the community, who was very, interested in like sewing into young women, and just overall being like a pillar in my community. And that is something that, I hold near and dear to my heart, just wanting to make a difference, wanting to empower and inspire those around me and touch those around me, and doing that in different ways, right? I do that through like my work in education, through like my mentorship work, through my poetry, and through my community service and the organizations that I'm a part of, right? And so like upon getting into college and pursuing the chapter on my yard, and interacting with the women who were in my chapter, who, were people who were doing the work of like helping the Syracuse community, helping, to raise money for scholarships, helping to create events that were like extremely meaningful, informative, things that like really like impacted me in different ways, right? Like things that really showed me like, this is what it's about. It's about the work. And it's about like how, how you're making a difference in what you're talking about, how you're like forcing and challenging, students on campus to approach and understand things in different ways, to be informed in different ways. I was just moved by the woman in my chapter throughout my time on campus, and wanted to pursue and think about the ways in which the history of Delta Sigma Theta has impacted women like all over the world, has impacted like women's rights, has impacted just a multitude of like things that I care about, how it was always about doing more, being different, being better, not better than anyone else, but better versions of ourselves, and just better women who lead in society. And so all of those things combined were like many of the reasons why I wanted to join my organization, and eventually did. And now on the other side, I have been doing the work for over 4 years now, and have not looked back since.
That's dope. That's dope. Shout out to you for definitely putting that work in. I want to play a game now. It's a new game I just started. Oh yeah. Now it's time to take the load off a little bit, have a little fun. So this game right here, the original title is Dream Song, right? And Dream Song, the way the game is played, I give you a title and I give you a theme, right? The theme behind that title, and you have to give me the artists that you think would come to mind when hearing that, right? So that was for a song. But since you're a poet, we're gonna do it with poetry. So I'm gonna give you a theme, title of a poem, and you have to name me at least 2 poets who you could hear creating a poem like this. Okay?
And so you gonna throw out a theme and a title of a poem.
Yeah, the theme is gonna be related to the title of the poem. Yeah, you gotta just tell me what poets do you think would write a poem like this, a poem about this. All right, and
I can name any poet.
Any poet at all, And to keep it more fun, you got a minute to do so. Once I tell you it. Okay.
I have a minute to. Okay, I have a minute to do so. Okay.
Yeah, a minute. So the first one, right, that we have up here is Oppression Olympics, a poem where the authors are constantly comparing each other's trauma like it's a competition, only to realize at the end everything is America's fault. And I need at least 2. It could be more than 2, but I need at least 2. Gotta lay it down. I understand.
Danez Smith.
Okay, Danez Smith. When 821 hit, that's it. I'm gonna need the answer.
Carvin's Lassant.
Say the last name again.
Carvin's Lassant.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, good. You ain't full one of that one. You ain't full. Cool. Next one. Love Don't Cost a Thing. A poem about love being more than just material objects.
Alicia Harris. Chanel Gabriel.
Alicia Harris, Chanel Gabriel. All right, cool. Next one, This Cape. A poem acknowledging how Black skin is like a cape, while also acknowledging why Black women are not responsible for saving society. This Cape.
Crystal Valentine.
Yeah, that was quick. Okay. Crystal Valentine.
Mahogany L. Brown.
Mahogany. I like mahogany. All right. You flying through these. You're not breaking the 1 minute mark. Cool. Hail to the Fail. A praise poem about how some failures you've had in life have helped you and why it's okay to fail.
Lady Breon.
Breon. Shout out Lady B. I love Lady B so much.
Why it's okay to fail.
The clock not looking so nice right now.
Miles Hodges.
All right, beat the clock. All right. Last one is House of Horror. A poem about the different horrors of America that are set up like rooms in a house. Actually, you know what? Let's play with this one. Let's add even more pressure to you. So we're gonna say there are 4 rooms in this house, and so you now have to give me 4 poets on this poem. But I will give you a minute and 30 seconds for this one.
I have 4 poets. Horror house. Rooms in a house. All right. Christopher Michael.
Okay.
Jamon Hill. Black Chakra.
Shout out Black Chakra. Love Black Chakra.
And Portia O.
Okay. 4, that was 4. Yep, that was 4. All right. And the last question for all of this. Out of all these poems that you have given authors to, which one do you want to hear first?
Which one do I want to hear first?
Your options again: Oppression Olympics, Love Don't Cost a Thing, This Cape, Hail to the Field, House of Horror. Which one you want to hear first?
This Cape by Crystal Valentine.
Okay, why This Cape? Why specifically This Cape?
This Cape because Black women are constantly, first of all, Black women are constantly talked about, right? And then it's kind of like we always have to constantly save something. And so hearing, and then Crystal oftentimes does pieces that are kind of like they're kind of like, they're satirical in a sense where she'll like attack the subject. She'll like make you think oppositely of it, and then like give you like context as to why, like you'll have to do the work on your own to realize like, oh shit, this is what she's really saying. And so I think that like the ways in which like she would write a piece like that would allow for us to do internal work, or the audience to do internal work, to realize like Black women shouldn't have to save everything with this being our cape. And so I just think that it would be a super fly piece, no pun intended.
All right, so you passed the game, right? You didn't go over any of the time limits, and you were able to choose. Congratulations. Your prize is a congratulations. Lyrical, it's been real. I've wholeheartedly appreciated you taking the time out today. We went over as the time we thought we was going to be, but it was great. It was a great conversation we just had. Before we wrap out of here, any last promos you want to do? Any last words you want to get off your chest to the audience?
Word. Thank you, MC, for having me. As MC has alluded to, right, I do co-host a open mic and showcase on Zoom every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time called the Harlem Bomb Shelter. So first and foremost, you can follow me on Instagram at Lyrical Faith Poetry. So just my name, Lyrical Faith, and then poetry. And I promote for all those things on my page. But the Harlem Bomb Shelter does take place every Thursday, same place on Zoom, same time. And tomorrow, actually, I'm not exactly sure when this is going to be posted. But
this will already be, it'll already happen.
Never mind. The Thursday after. So next Thursday, we have a super dope feature that I haven't announced yet, but if you follow me, you will see the promo for it, and you won't want to miss it. So definitely follow at the Harlem Bomb Shelter, follow at Black Greek Poets, follow my nonprofit at Poetry for Service. All of those things are on my page and my bio. But yeah, definitely thank you, Project MC, for having me, and this has been a super dope time. Really appreciate all of you who are out there listening.
Oh, for sure. Again, Lyrical, thank you. I'm gonna try to stop by to tomorrow's Harlem Bomb Shelter. I know I got some things, but I'm gonna try to stop by to at least listen. Much love, always love. Thank you so much, and I will hit you later.
Dope. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Appreciate you.
Peace.
Yo. Listen, when I tell you I bring the stars out, what you talking about, man? Only here on the Mic Check did you get great quality content, great quality people like that. Listen, it's been real. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Peace, power, prosperity to you. Until next time, right here on the Mic Check. I've been your host, Project MC. I'm out. Y'all be blessed.